Hello, I'm your host, Leonard Duncan. Welcome to a new episode of ATV-TALK and Motorsports Podcast. Please join us every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We bring you interviews with industry professionals, live events, live news about the motorsports industry in every episode. Enjoy the show. Bob Kline, welcome to ATV Talk. How are you, sir?
Good, Leonard. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Hey, thanks for taking some time. I know we've been trying to put this together for a while. When you guys were out here, what has it been, a year and a half now?
No, it's been 1 year.
It's been a
It
year.
was about this time last year.
Okay.
We were there for the round two of the Supercross. Actually, we were leaving your place to go to round two.
Right. That's
San
gotta
Diego. Yeah, that was a year ago.
Wow, that time
Yeah.
goes by so fast.
Yeah.
So, hey, let's get into a little bit. We didn't talk much when you guys were here about your career, but I want to talk to you about what it was like back when four strokes were basically shunned to a point in our industry.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was great. I mean, the 200X was the machine back then. That was awesome. That's what I actually started racing on, the 200X. 1983. I started out with motocross, and it was fun. Started out with a stock motor, and actually I won my first race because all the big boys weren't there that night, which made me feel it made me feel good. But after the big boys showed up, I knew there was time to do something. So
What was the draw for the 200X versus the 250R?
well, the 250R was there. Like I went to a race out near Hanover, Pennsylvania, called Trailway Speedway, and they had different class. They had two different classes of three wheelers. They had the 250Rs and all the 200s. Now, back when we ran the 200s, they were running was a Yamaha had a 175, if I remember right.
I think so.
Tri-moto.
Yep.
Sound right? Yes. Yeah, I started out in the four stroke, and I enjoyed the four stroke. I mean, that's pretty much all I ever ran, from day one. But it was a lot of fun. It was challenging. Got to meet a lot of people over the years and stuff. But I like the four stroke. I like the control of it. I always ran thumb throttle. A lot of guys ran twists, but I just seemed like I had more control of the machine of the thumb throttle and the four stroke. And I like the grunt power. Didn't have to mix fuel or anything like that. Just put some high test gas in it and go.
Right. That the 200X is probably the best three-wheeler Honda ever built, and it's so underrated.
I would say that, yeah. I mean, the R was a good machine, but yeah, for the four stroke, the 200X, when that came out in 1983, they were hard to get. They're very hard to get. And I had to travel. We have a lot of Honda shops in the area, but I had to travel over an hour. I called around everywhere to find one, and I finally got one up in Mechanicsburg, PA. And I got it, and I don't think I rode that thing. I went to my first race. A friend of mine, Cole Knighton, he invited me to go to the Motorama in Harrisburg, an indoor arena race. That was in February of '83. And I was expecting all motorcycles in this motocross. But when these 200Xs came out and they raced, I said, they raced them? He says, yeah. That's all it took. That visit to the farm show race that year is where my racing career started. And when I seen them guys, a guy by the name of Salen Steve Lonstein and Eddie Drumhauer, they were the two fast guys at the time there. And I watched them guys on these three wheelers going through the whoop-de-doos and the jumps and everything, the turns, like, oh man, I rode motorcycle. I had an RM 125 I rode before. After watching these three wheelers, like, oh yeah, this has got to be it. So I left that race. I started looking for a 200X probably that Monday morning, and it took me a couple of weeks to find one. And I believe it was beginning of April. I bought a brand new 1983 200X, and by June 1st, I was at the track.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. The allure for the 200X was for the masses was probably the rideability, don't you think?
Yeah. Um, it's always seemed to be more four strokes to races than the two strokes back then. I mean, back then it was really picking up in our area. Um, you could see it by the month. More and more people were showing up. But I think the four strokes always outnumbered the two strokes there for the longest time. And then some guys would switch. Most of the guys, if they switch, they go from four stroke to two stroke. Not too many people come from two stroke back to the four stroke. But yeah, the numbers are really climbing up there in the 80s. You know, when Team Honda was out there, everybody's eyes were set on them. And that's what brought someone like me into this, seeing these guys race, like, yeah, I got to go do that. Got to go do this.
Right.
Like we went to Lake George and did ice racing. Did motocross for a couple years before I went into hare scrambles and then cross country.
I was just going to get into that. So in the area that you were in, you could do everything from, you mentioned motocross, ice race, hare scrambles, and then cross country. And did you race all of the different forms at the same time?
I blended them together there for a while. I started the motocross there of June of '83, and I ran that '83, '84, '85. '85, I started doing a couple hare scrambles. I bought a second 200X in 1984, bone stock, and I took that to a local race. I only made 45 minutes from the house. Um, what they did, it was like one class of three wheelers, and that was it. There's all the two strokes and the four strokes. And all of us motocross racers, by this time, I knew everybody in four stroke class and two stroke class. So we all decided to get together, go to Newberrytown, and do this hare scramble. And I just stock 200X. All these guys, they all pretty much all had one machine. Well, now I have two of them. I have the motocross racer set up, and I have a stock one. Well, I was the last one off the line on my stock 200X. There's an hour-long race, and when that race was over, I took the checker first. It was
Nice.
it was awesome. It was awesome. My first motocross race was a win, and my first hare scramble race was a win. And after doing that, all these guys come in with their wide axles, which I had little flat track knobby tires on mine, and the wide axle wasn't set up for the woods. You know how that is compared to a stock axle. And I was I was feeling good knowing I beat all my buddies in the two strokes in the woods. You know, it was great. But I did that again one other time on a 200X, Heidelberg. It's a ski resort up above Reading, PA. Me and my friend Jerry Huggentugler, he was on the fast forward team with me. He ran a two stroke, I ran a four stroke. And I took my motocrosser there one day and I decide, I turned the wheels inside out, put knobbies on it, the flat track knobbies, and I signed up for the 250 class. I'll never forget this day. And when I lined up, all the 200Xs were lined up behind us, and these guys in the 200X class comes walking up and say, "Hey, buddy, you're in the wrong class." I said, "No, I'm not. The 200s are back here. You're with the two strokes." I said, "I'm racing against them today." They just looked at me like, "You're crazy." I took second place overall.
Nice.
My friend Jerry in a two stroke beat me. But yeah, it was awesome. And then after that, then everyone in the four stroke classes, what's done to that thing? I said, well, I just ride hard.
There you go. What was the camaraderie like? I mean, it seems like the guys that were in that Pennsylvania area, well, really the that whole circle that encompassed that group, you guys were all pretty tight.
Yes, we were. We were. It was a large group. We had a lot of people from Maryland too, like Teddy Trey and all his friends, Charlie Watson, Mark White, Rusty Harris. It's a whole gang in Maryland came up to Trailways also, and they're just as far away from Trailways as we were from Columbia going over to Hanover, and that's how I got to meet Teddy Trey back in the day. That was back in, of course, '83. But yeah, we were all close. It was all like a big family. We all helped each other out. If someone needed a throttle cable or a tire or whatever, someone forgot to bring fuel, we always helped each other out. And that's the nice thing about the racing family. I mean, it's the best family out there. I mean, I have a lot of friends throughout where my business was and through my town, but the racing family is like the largest. They're the best.
How many of the guys that you raced with do you still talk to today?
Pretty many. I Chuck DeLulu, he's only an hour from here where I live now. And Norm Bish, um, Teddy Trey, Tommy Tokay, um, Tiger, my friend Renee LeBron, um, BJ, Bruce Allman. You probably remember Bruce.
Yeah, I had
And
him on the show.
yep, and Mike Kowal, Mike Krachin, um, there's more. Matt Dice. Um, there's a lot of them that I keep in touch with. I mean, we actually get together once in a while. Like me and Teddy will meet in Gettysburg for dinner some night. We'll go to Gettysburg and meet him there. And one time, Tom Tokay showed up and surprised us, and the three of us were there together. But BA, he has that Blue Line Graphics. He does a lot of work for me, making stickers and stuff for me. So I keep in touch with him. And actually, he down in my other hometown, he actually rents some garages from me. So we all keep close.
That's pretty cool that you can have a group of guys that you hung out with and raced with that many years ago and you're still together today.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. But there's a bunch of them that I am missing. I can't think offhand all of them, but there's some of them I do talk to every once in a great while. But like Tommy Tommy Tokay, Teddy Trey, Chuck DeLulu, BJ, they're the ones I talk to the most. We're probably the closest. But then if we decide we're going to get something together, like that Blackwater party we had last year, we went 40, 45 of us are here total, wives and stuff. That was a great get together. Like we had like Chuck Fritz and other people from back in the day, um, um, Sue Wise, Jimmy Wise, and all them.
How did that come to be? How did that start off?
Well, probably about 8, 9 years ago, I said something to Chuck DeLulu about we ought to get a racers reunion together. He said, sure, we'll have it at our place. And he has a cabin over in Benazet. So we pieced it together, and it was probably maybe 15 of us got together, and we had that so much of a good time. So we got to do this again. So a couple years went past, and then I thought, that 30th year reunion with the Blackwater thing, and I've been keeping in touch with a lot of different people and riding with some friends. So you know what, we need to get this reunion thing together. So we started planning that probably around March or April of 2023. And it started coming together. And as it was coming together, the numbers kept growing and growing. And I think it ended up being 45 people here at the party. We had it right here at my place where my cabin is here in Potter County. And it was the greatest time. I have a flat track out front down the flats that we have a bunch of little 90s here, and like Tommy Tokay and Teddy Trey are down there racing each other, and they're just bumping into each other, just having a good old time. And like I said, Sue Wise and Jimmy Wise were here, and Chuck Fritz and everyone else I already mentioned were here, and Greg Burkhalter. He's a guy I raced with back in districts back in the 80s. But it just pieced together, and it it worked out. Oh yeah, I'm just looking at some pictures here right now. Can't forget Roy Daines.
Right.
Roy, Roy Daines was here also.
Yeah, he was on the
Yeah.
show too. I've had him on the show too.
Yes, I heard that.
Yeah. That
Yes.
that that was great getting to talk. Some of the guys on the list that I got for that never responded or never seemed to return my calls. So they must not even understood what we were doing here, or they just didn't want to talk openly about it.
Well, you send me a list of the ones you didn't hear from, and I'll hook you up.
Okay. I
I'll
will.
make it happen.
I'll text you over. I'll try to text it over tonight.
Yeah, do that.
Because it's so much. I think the young people that are racing today have no clue how good they have it.
True. And if the group today, I mean, the group today is awesome. I I have a lot of friends back in the day, and I have a lot of friends from now, from just going to GNCC races. Between Hannah Hunter and catching up with Tracy Pickens and Jeff and the whole bunch in there. It's like my family keeps continuing on and keeps growing. Between the new faces and the old faces, it's great. So like I said, this racing family is awesome. I mean, I love being around all the people because the stories that come out sometimes, and the newer people, if they were here back in the 80s to see what we went through and how we had to do it. I seen three wheelers in trunks of cars. I mean, I remember people didn't have trailers to haul them. I have a picture somewhere where I think we were in Tennessee or North Carolina, three wheeler days back in the 80s. We had to work on a three wheeler one night, and it was raining outside. We were at the motel. We took the two back wheels off, moved the one bed out of the way, and took the three wheeler in the room and worked on it in our motel room. And we have pictures of us right there wrenching on it. It was crazy, but I mean, we roughed it back then,
Well,
but we
what
enjoyed
they,
it.
what kids today don't understand is how hard the industry was, because the professionals you have today are the companies that developed from the early or late 70s into where we are now.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah,
you didn't have that then. You guys had to
yeah,
figure a lot of the stuff out on your own.
right. We did, and there was no big sponsors back then. I mean, I had some sponsors, but not like it is today.
Right,
Nothing like it is today. I mean, we had to scratch, but and borrow, you know.
right.
But we came a long way. Came a long way. I just thought of another name, John Tate. He was involved with us at our party. He came up from New Jersey. He's a guy that raced with us back in the day.
Right, right.
But
I know some of the names, but I don't know them all.
right,
And I didn't, we didn't look at the East Coast racing that often because we were so busy racing on the West Coast. And I don't think that the link was there like it is today.
right.
You
Well,
know,
back on the West Coast, you had so many options. You had the desert. You had Riverside, Carlsbad. You
yeah.
know, you had all that stuff where we just had these little motocross tracks around here, and then someone has a piece of property like, let's run a woods race here. But the GNCC took over, and that just exploded then.
Can you believe that the GNCC is growing? It's still growing and getting larger, even
Yes,
today.
yeah, it is. Yeah, I try and go to at least one race a year. I'm going to try and get maybe two. talking to Hannah here some time ago, and she told me I had to come to two this year. I said, I'll see what I can do.
Well, Ironman seems like the race to go to.
Oh yeah,
You
I
just
haven't been after that one.
you just have to plan ahead and get your rig there 2 weeks before the race, or you're not going to get a parking spot.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
we raced out there already, but it wasn't the Ironman. It was something else then, but it was another location. I mean, that was back in the late '80s, but I forget. I can't think of the name of the town. I can see it on my plaque down in my trophy room, but I can't picture the name now.
well, you had all those different places, and half of them are gone, or more than half of them are gone now.
Yeah, the Blackwater,
Yeah.
the Big Bear at Brewster Mills, the Sand Flea in Sanford, North Carolina, Cocoa Beach in Florida, Tarentum out in Pittsburgh. I mean, they were all great races.
Did you get to ride the one in Florida?
Yes, I did. Cocoa Beach. I did
Yeah.
all of them once in Florida back then. Oh man, you talk about well, if you weren't ready for that, you had arm pump the first lap.
Well, I mean, you guys didn't really train though back then, did you?
Nope. We had a place called Tower City. Um, it's up off Route 81. It's below Hazleton, Scranton, and stuff above Lebanon. They had a big coal mine up there. It was open to the public years ago. It was actually where Roush Creek is today. But we used to go there on the weekends and ride. And then when I really got into racing, that was one of the places where we just go practice. Like hill climbs or racing through the woods, or like for Blackwater, they have so like a big pit up there. It was all the fines of the coal, and it was like quicksand.
Oh wow.
And we used to ride through that, and you talk about getting black and muddy, and it was like suction cups sucking you in, and we used to like race each other through it to see get to the other side first. And I'll tell you what, I can't remember how long. It's probably maybe 20, 30 feet across, but it was one of them deals that might take a minute to get across it because the wheels are just spinning. You're shaking the bike and jumping up and down, just like you're
Wow.
stuck in like wet sand, really mucky suction type sand.
How'd you get them out when they got stuck?
Get a tie down strap and hook another three wheeler and yank them out for a couple three wheelers.
Wow. That back in them days, it had to have been more fun because it was more adventurous.
Oh, it was. It was adventurous. Oh my God. So some of the stuff that we did back then. I mean, some of the hills that we used to climb, like we would climb these coal piles. They were like, oh, I'm gonna say probably 7, 8 stories high, at least, minimum. And then some places, I mean, you could pick your different lines. And some places at the top, the last 6, 8, 10 feet was vertical. And we watch motorcycles do that. I go, let's give it a try. And after trying stuff like that, it's like, wow, I can do that, but you got to know what you're doing when you're doing it. If not, you're going the wrong way.
Right, right.
But yeah, that was a lot of fun doing that kind of stuff, especially Tower City. But since then, they took that coal pile away. They hauled it all up. I don't know where they hauled it to, and then Roush Creek, their own track in. They did have a GNCC up there back. Oh my God, probably 15 years ago. But I know they have uh, lots in there. You can bring your camper in and park your camper like for the weekend or overnight, or you can buy a pass for a year. A friend of mine, Ryan Hershey from Mannheim, he had a spot up there, and I used to go up to his place. We stay in his camper, and then we'd ride all weekend long up there, just get some seat time.
Just back when it was just fun, right?
Yep, yep. That was that there when I was doing that. That was in the early '90s when I was doing that. we were going up to his place. That's when it was pretty much called Roush Creek. I guess Roush Creek took that over somewhere around there. And then, like I said, you had to buy a pass to get in then. But when it was just Tower City, it was open to anybody. I mean, that place was packed. There's hundreds of riders there all the time.
Wow. We don't get to see much of that anymore, like places like that,
Yeah,
unless you go to the sand dunes, or there's certain places in the country that are still a lot of riding, but it almost seems like people either race or don't ride.
right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I mean, nowadays, the side by side thing, it's growing. It's really growing. It's a lot of people are going that direction. The ones that aren't racing. I mean, I have a side by side. I love it. I have a Honda Talon sports model that I can go out and have a blast on it, or I can jump in my North Star Polaris. It's air conditioned and heat. I can ride 12 months a year here. I don't care how much snow's out there. I'm going to go somewhere. You know.
Do you think that it's people are risk averse nowadays versus when we were doing it in the 80s?
Yeah, it's times have definitely changed. It's no doubt. Times have definitely changed. Um, Good question. But I guess there's different ways you can look at that. But but yeah, I think if people nowadays had a chance to ride a three wheeler and understand it, they would enjoy it. Because I mean, I could jump on a three wheeler right now and be just as good as I am on a four wheeler. But I know when I left three wheelers with the four wheelers, like it's an extra wheel up here. I don't like that, you know.
Right. What was it like racing Blackwater back then on the four stroke?
Uh, it was pretty wild. My first year there was 1985. Yeah, 85 was my first year there. And I didn't know what to expect. All I knew was a lot of water, river crossings, swamps. So I was somewhat prepared, but not 100% prepared. I um I went in there with lightweight rims. Um, I used the regular 20-inch issue tires, and I destroyed my rims. I mean, I ran I ran the beginning of that race like I was in a motocross, which was a mistake because it paid. I paid the price afterwards because my friend Tiger LeBron, he started to race 35th. I started 144th in that race, and I was just passing everybody. And at the 6 mile marker is when I passed Tiger, and wasn't a mile after that. I smashed the rim from hitting rocks, and of course I was carrying like 2 or 3 cans of Fix-A-Flat on me, and of course I get a rock, pound it back out, blow it up, and get going again. And I rode too hard. My rims weren't set up for that type of riding, and I just destroyed the rims. And it got to the point where I used all my Fix-A-Flat up, and I think I used every rock out there, pounding the rims out. And that race, I'll never forget that race.
Are you looking for the best suspension technology for your sport ATV? Look no further than Elka Suspension, the industry leader in sport ATV suspension technology. With championship wins in prestigious events such as the Dakar Rally, SCORE, Best in the Desert, ATV MX, Cross Country, and Works, Elka Suspension has established itself as the go-to choice for athletes and enthusiasts alike. But they don't just stop at ATVs. They're constantly expanding into new markets, including UTVs, trucks, SUVs, pit bikes, snowmobiles, and more. Their commitment to innovation and quality means they're always looking to improve and adapt so you can enjoy a smooth ride wherever you go. Want to learn more about what Elka Suspension can do for you? Visit their website at elkasuspension.com or give them a call at 450 655 4855. They will always be happy to answer your questions and help you find the perfect suspension solution for your needs.
Teddy Trey was on the second lap coming around, and I was just limping around. I was maybe 8, 9, 10 miles into the race. And he just passed me for a second lap. And just ahead of me, he stopped. So I moseyed on up to him. I said, "What happened?" His chain snapped, and he's running the top 5. So, not knowing it worked, I took the chain off my 350X and put it on his 250R. And it actually fit. It worked out the way that the gearing was on our machines. It worked out. And he did get to finish the race. I said, "Don't forget, send me help out here. I have no way to move now." Well, 8 o'clock that night, someone came out and got me. But yeah, that was. So then we prepared ourselves for '86, and I went with the Douglas wheels, the red dot, the .190, and ran the Carlisle Trail Pros, and we did a little bit more waterproofing and stuff, and then things seem to come together. And that year, I got into the overall, in the top 15 overall, I think it was, and I actually won my class in '86. And I went back '87. Thought, I'd won it last year. I'd do it again this year. Well, I guess I think I picked my pace up a little bit too fast, and I think I went over the handlebars probably 5 times.
Ugh.
Going across those swamps, and all of a sudden the front end just drops. I end up getting like third or fifth in that win. Then I went back in '88 and got my head screwed on right, and then I won it again. But the Blackwater race itself, it's just, there's nothing in the world like it. I mean, between Cabin Mountain, the Moon Rocks, entering the Moon Rocks, there was, you've seen a lot of videos, there's like a rock, it's like a big step. It might be about 2.5 feet high. Then there's a little flat part, and there's another step. But you had to go up over that to get over the hill and run down through the Moon Rocks. And in the videos you watch, it's just, I think 75% of the people flip their machines there. I mean, everyone flipped there. But that was tough. The swamps, the quagmire, the river crossings, the mud fleas. I mean, you go look at the race the day before, and it doesn't look that bad. Race day, the water's twice as deep because all the mud fleas build a dam, and then your bike's not riding on the bottom of the stream, the rivers; they're floating across, and you always had to aim high because you come in low because of the current.
Right.
But it was a task. It was different. I mean, I wish they still ran it. I know it's never going to happen. I was just down last year to Davis to go just check part of the course out, IV-93 river crossing and the first river crossing and the pit area and all that stuff. Because actually, I went down to buy a Blackwater pinball machine in Davis.
Ah,
Yeah, and
okay.
I have it here in the garage now. But it changed so much, and now since the state's involved, the government and stuff, and it's just, they turned into a park, for a walking park, a bike park, and it's never going to come back. But it's a shame because I wish today today's riders would have a chance to ride it, because I tell you what, there'd be a lot of stories coming out.
Well, they have things that are um, rougher today or rougher then that these guys don't face today. Plus, the courses today aren't as narrow as they used to be.
Oh no, I walked some of them. I couldn't get over. I mean, back in the day, when you came up to the finish line, it was 1 hour and 59 minutes. Guess what? You're going out again. Now I think they cut it like 10, 15 minutes beforehand. They don't send you back out. Back then they did. And I mean, Dave Coombs made the course. he left tree stumps stick out 6 inches, whether saplings or what. There's like 6 inches of stump sticking out. He wanted you to get a flat tire. He wanted you to get slowed down. I mean, he made the course that you didn't have speed.
Right.
There was no speed involved in Dave's courses. It was technical. I mean, you had to weasel your way through. But yeah, it's definitely different today than it was. It's almost like a woods motocross race today.
Yeah. I think it's that
Yeah,
they took, but they did take the motocross portions out of the tracks, because they used to be able to run part of it where they come out of the woods and then they do a little bit of the motocross track and then go back in.
yeah,
You know
yeah.
why they did that?
I don't know. That I don't know. I don't know if maybe some riders are complaining. It's supposed to be cross country, not motocross, or I don't know. I don't have no idea what the thought is on that.
That'd be a respite. What do you think? You'd be able to go out on the motocross track and relax for a minute and not have trees or some type of obstacle that you had to
Yeah,
ride around or be careful of so you didn't get a flat or destroy your machine.
yeah, yeah. I had my share of flats over the days. Yeah, you always carry fix a flat. Like I said, I usually had at least two cans on me, and there was no tire balls back then.
Right.
There's no such thing.
That came
But
in,
yeah,
that didn't come in until like in the 2000 range, right?
well, I would think it's around there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was in the
I
later.
know. Yeah, I know some people are using those Barbie balls from Walmart.
Right. They worked too.
Yeah, I know. I actually one girl rode for me. She's using Barbie balls.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
was talking with Gallagher, and that's where I had gotten the information from tire balls. And I scratched my head thinking, how are you going to put these things together with these balls? And how's it going to work? And it took us a couple years before we started using them. And once we did, tire wear went down and you're not getting a flat.
yeah, yeah. That would be nice. Things would be a lot different back then if we had them back then because I mean, everyone got flats. Everyone.
Right.
It was hard. It was hard to run a full race without getting a flat. I mean, there's people who got flats like the last mile or two of the race, but they came across a checker on a flat tire.
Right.
But yeah, it happened. And I was in a race in Ohio one time, Marietta, Ohio, um, 1988. That's the year John Danes was in a crash. Roy Danes' brother, and he was paralyzed. He was he started the line in front of me, and that's when he was paralyzed. It was a sad day. But anyways, I was 6 miles into the race and got a flat, and there was no way back around until you ran the whole course. Changed the tire, went back out again, and the same place I got a flat again. What I hit, I don't know, but I had to finish that second lap, put another tire on, and then I ended up finishing. And I think I ended up that was like my worst finish that year. I think I got like fifth or sixth place. That's the year I won the national title in the three wheeler in '88. That was my worst race that year.
Three flat tires.
Yeah, it was two flat tires, two of them.
Flat
One the
tire.
first, yeah, one the first lap and one the second lap, and then it was two more laps, and I just took different lines so I wouldn't get a third one.
Man, what it would be like if you could take the knowledge you have today and go back and use that to race back then.
Wow, it'd definitely be a lot different. The finishes would be totally different. Definitely, it'd be different. It'd be different winners. I mean, it would change everything. I mean, back then there wasn't a really good skid plate out until Tim Wercher came out with those good aluminum skid plates. We were
Yep.
using them. I mean, they held. They're about the best back then. They were like the best thing you could put on your machine back then.
Yeah, they were great. Um,
Yeah,
I think OMF started the craze of making a bunch of that stuff
Mhm.
with other companies. Um, some of them never made it back east, I don't think, because they couldn't hold up in the woods. You have
Yeah.
a special product
Mm.
basically to live in
Yeah.
the woods.
Yeah. Tim came out with some good products. They remember the scoots on the 250Rs
Yep.
he
Yep.
made. Yeah. I had them on mine, which I had all the four stroke motors and the R frames. I had a couple of them built.
Right. And you put the shrouds on them just for looks.
Yeah. I mean, it did suck a little bit more air in because of the way it reached out. But the looks, it always looked good. You always put a couple stickers on it.
How did the
So,
R chassis work with the four-stroke motors in there?
um, actually good. A very good friend of mine, Mac Moore. I don't know if you ever heard of Mac Moore.
I think I have.
Okay. Um, I started racing against him back when I first started racing back in '83. He was only like 20 minutes from me where he lived and where I lived back then. And we were competitors back then, but we become best friends. I mean, he's been there for me all the way up till now. He's always been there to help me out. But he did the fabricating work for me. Tom Carlson at TC Racing. When we did the first one, we put a slightly modified 350X motor in a 250R frame, and I tried that out in Hare Scramble, and it worked. It was pretty awesome. And then we built one. We put a 350X motor in a 250X frame. The R we called Rex. The 250X when with the 350X motor in, we called that the Little Monster. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, Mac Moore, he made all the motor mounts. He used to work at Harley Davidson before he retired here in York, and like I said, a very good friend of mine. And he did the fabricating he did is almost like factory. If Tom Carlson would say, "Hey, we need this frame moved," like, what do you mean we need a frame moved? When we built the last 250R with a 350X motor in it. That thing was unbelievable. Um, where the in front of the seat where the tube comes down around and down to the foot pegs, Tom
Right.
says the frame on the right side has to be cut out. He says I can get you an extra horsepower if that frame's not there. So Tom explained to Mackie, this is what we need to do. Mackie says, okay. And Mac cut that section of the frame out and notched it around, just missed the shock, came down around, so we can make that exhaust pipe come straight back. And Tom said, by on a dyno, he said, we're going to gain a horsepower. He says, for flat tracking, he said, every horsepower counts. And Mac did that. And when he was done with that, it looked like it came from the factory. And that thing, Tom bored and stroked that to a 475. And did
Wow.
that thing rump? That thing rumped. I took that thing to the races. The first time I took it to the race, Mackie Moore was there with me, and he was helping me get it all tuned in and get it all set up for the first time. And I'll tell you what, that's the first four wheeler I ever rode. It felt like the back end wanted to pass the front. That was when I came in after the qualifying part of it. Because practice, I was just tinkering around, getting the feel of it. Come in after qualifying, after I started opening up a little bit. Um, well, my wife today with my girlfriend Kelly, she said that was the biggest smile I ever seen in your face. And I said, "Oh my God, this thing's unbelievable." He said, "Nothing's going to touch us," and it did. That thing was unstoppable. Nothing could beat it. Nothing could beat it.
And that was TT.
Um, yeah, yeah. TC Tom Carlson.
No, but that was TT racing.
That was a flat track. I'm sorry, that was flat track racing.
Okay, on an old.
That was actually Trailways in Hanover. We have a lot of pictures of that night. That was a fun night. And then we took it to a race, Dallas Wreckers Complex. I can't remember if it was North Carolina or Tennessee. The first time I ever went to a national for this is a TT race now, and I ran the senior class. Jerry Swank was on a 500 Suzuki, #1 plate. Donnie Pruitt was on a Yamaha Banshee, #3 plate, and then there was a whole field of us. And I'll never forget that race. And this really made me feel great after the race. I was probably fourth off the line, third in the first turn, and coming out of the one turn, I passed Donnie Pruitt on his Banshee, which, wow, this thing's getting it. I caught Jerry Swank on the 500 Suzuki. There was a hairpin turn down at the end of the field, down at the end of the track. I stayed out wide because I knew with my 4-stroke, I could crunt that power down on the inside if he drifts out because he stayed close on the inside. So I stayed out wide and cut inside of him, and my power got down, and I just walked past him on that 500 Suzuki. And he did the same thing back to me on the next lap. He passed me, and then I was like my front bumper to his grab bar to the finish line the whole race. And after the race, he came up to me, and like I said, I'll never forget this. This really made me feel good. He says, "What the hell are you running?" I said, "Well, it's a 350X, a little bit of work done to it." He said, "I've been racing all my life." He said, "I never had a 4-stroke push me like you did." So I said, "Well, it's a TC motor." And that really made me feel good, hearing it from the #1 guy on a 500 Suzuki. So I ended up doing more national TTs and stuff over the years and stuff. But yeah, when I get out of the hair scramble cross country, my body start telling me, you don't want to quit. You just need to slow down and do something different. So I figured, well, I'll get on something that I don't have to work out every day to go fast. Just as long as I have that motor, it'll make me go.
What was the difference between the 250X chassis versus the 250R chassis? You were flat tracking that one as well, right?
Well, I did a little bit. I did that a little bit more in the hair scrambles. Being short like that little 250X, that 350X motor in, that thing would just zip in and out of the trees. Where of course the R is a little bit longer, and we were just trying things back then. And like I said, Mac Moore did all the fabricating for me on everything. And of course, TC did all the engine work. But yeah, we wanted to try that, and Mac actually built one too. And then he built he had a
So
blaster.
did it work? I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah. If you got on it, you got to make sure you're leaning front because it'll wheelie fast. That front end's light. As soon as you get on the throttle, that front end's light instantly. It's not like an R stretched out a little bit more.
okay.
But it was great getting in and out of the trees.
How much success did you have with that machine in the hair scrambles?
I did. It depends on what course you would go to. We would go to some tracks in the district. Um, there was a lot of tight woods. That worked perfect in the tight woods. But now there's a place called Pine Grove up off Route 81. They called the Flying Dutchman. Now that was a lot of open fields, hardly any woods. You ran on part of the TT track. There was a lot of open stuff. They have dips and a couple little jumps here and there. That's where the R worked best there. Like I said, depending on the course.
Because of the length?
Yes.
It seems like that little bike, the little 250X chassis would have been, well, if you made it a flat tracker, it probably would have been pretty awesome as well.
It probably would have. It probably would have. I never got a chance to run the 250X in the in the TTs. When we put that other 250R together, the 350X, that was that was the cat's meow in the TT tracks.
How long did you race for? How many years?
I started June of '83, and I raced all the way up to, I missed the last Blackwater for cross country. Last Blackwater was '93. I raced Blackwater up till '92, and then I, that's when I start feeling like, I got to give my body a break, because I mean I was pounding it hard. I was going to all these nationals on a Saturday and either driving or flying back to a local race to race Sunday, and I had bikes there waiting for me, to do hare scrambles, and it started taking a toll on my body, and I figured, you know what, I'm going to back off a little bit, and I did back off a little bit, and then I got into the flat. I did the flat track, and maybe like a year later, I got into that. I did that for a couple years, and then I backed out. And then when I was doing that flat tracking in the early '90s, I was trying to get a lot of my friends, you know, after reading magazine stuff, I was trying to talk them into, let's go to Pikes Peak. We ought to get together, because a lot of us always got together. Like, I remember one time 7 of us got together in 2 box fans and went down to Virginia to White Oak. It's a really cool motocross track down there. It goes through the woods, built in sprinklers and all stuff. It's really, really cool track. I don't know if it's there anymore or not. But anyways, we used to get together and go to all these races. And I thought, a bunch of us get together and go to Pikes Peak. And it never materialized. It never happened. And then I was off a couple years, and it would have been October 2006. I opened up an ATV magazine, and there's inside of it, there's a picture of Jim Gertz and John Angel on these Yamaha Banshees side by side into a turn at Pikes Peak, and it says "Race to the Clouds." That's all she wrote. I read that article and said, I got to do it. And of course, I went out in 2007, scoped everything out, and then I raced it for 3 years, 8, 9, and 10. And that was a blast.
Enjoyed it, huh?
Yeah. And then that year, 2010, I raced the local races in Ashtabula, the national, up until that fall. And then that's when I hung my boots up.
You hung. So you just recreational stuff now?
Yeah. I have 2 new little Honda 90s here. It's tempting. I might go to Ashtabula this summer and go do the 90 class, just for the heck of it. Just go have fun, Just go out and catch up with some old buddies.
What does Kelly think of that?
Well, she don't mind. She'll follow me. She doesn't want me. She said if Pikes Peak comes back again, which they ban motorcycles and 4-wheelers from it, but she said, I'd rather you not do that again. That's too dangerous. Like, no, it's fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome that she's so into it. So let's take a shift of gears here and talk about the future and modern day. You help out Hannah Hunter.
Yes.
How did that come about for you to come and start helping her?
Well, in the beginning of 2000, I don't know if it was 9 or 10, somewhere around 2009, 2010, when I knew I was getting ready to slowly step out of it, I have all these machines. I had 3 450Rs.
Are you ready to be captivated by one of nature's masterpieces? Discover the breathtaking beauty of Antelope Slot Canyon, a natural wonder in Page, Arizona. Join us on a guided tour and immerse yourself in the mystical light beams rich colors, and serene landscapes. With tours at prime sunbeam hours, experience photographer's paradise and capture memories that will last a lifetime. Comfortable shoes, a camera, and a smile are all you need for this adventure. Book your journey today at Antelope Slot Canyon Tours and let the canyon enchant you. Please visit us now, antelopeslotcanyon.com, for more details.
All race ready. And I picked up some riders. Kelly Winters from York County. She was doing some motocross, and her dream was to always run TT Nationals. And she lived maybe about a half an hour away from me, so I contacted her and said, "Hey, would you be interested in riding one of my quads?" She says, "Yeah." So I hooked her up, and she got going. And then another friend of mine, Landon Myers, I had this '06 450. It was the big bore. Um, that thing was a rocket. Oh my God, that thing never lost a race. But anyways, I put him on it because he came up in a stock Yamaha, and his talent, what I see how he rode, I said, this guy's going to get somewhere. And I went up to him and said, "Hey, you want to ride one of my bikes?" He said, "Sure." So for 2 years, Kelly Winters rode my '07 450, and Landon rode my '06, the big bore. And they both got to race TT Nationals and all the local stuff. And then when it was coming time, I figured, okay, I'm going to slowly start stepping out of it. I gave them option to buy the machines if they wanted them. I was going to sell them to them at a reasonable price. But neither of them had the money at the time to do it. And so they had 2 good years that, I did everything. All they did was ride it. I put the fuel in it. I washed them. I maintained them. I was at all the races with them. I did everything for them. Mac Moore was by my side also helping. And then I decided, you know what, I don't know if I can get out of this completely. So I ended up picking up some more riders. Shanna Bradshaw from out of Maryland, she was running the cross country series. I picked her up and helped her out, but she needed a little bit of help, and we got her going. And then her maiden name is Angel Atwell. It's Angel McGee now. She was running the cross country pro women's class. So helped her out. The first year, she didn't have a machine, and I had a stock 2008 450R here. And actually, I got it from my wife, but she never rode it. And I gave that to Angel for that year. I think that was 2011. She rode that. And of course, I was helping those girls out there for a while. And it just still didn't I want to keep my fingers in. I want to give back to the racing community where I was at. And I knew what it was like to get started because I know how it went. And I figured, there's some people out here with some talent. I'm going to see what they can do, if I can help them. So that went on about. And then Angel was getting a little bit out of it at the time. And she had some babies and stuff. And then I figured, you know what, I need to get my fingers back in this again. And I just got on the GNC site, and Hannah's name came up, and I seen she was from Pennsylvania and she wasn't far from me. So I reached out to her and said, "Hey, would you be interested in any help?" She says, "Yeah, what do you have to offer?" I said, "Well, let's get together sometime. We'll meet halfway between our places." And her mom went, and me and my wife Kelly went. We met her, and we talked it over, and it all came about from there. And right now, Hannah's the only one I help out. Back in the day, it was a couple of them at one time, but now that I'm retired and just doing my thing around here, I got at least I got to keep my fingers in it. So I'll do what I can for Hannah. And then last year, one of the things I did for her, besides helping her out, keeping her moving, we brought her out there to your place, and then we took her to the Supercross. We took her to Pismo Beach and rode the Honda 250s, which they were slow, but we still had a blast. Me and her, we were out there for like 2 hours on the dunes, and it was like I could do that again. That's fun. And then we went up to Bo Barron's place. Of course, I know Bo for, oh my God, ever since I went up to Mike Caffro and Julie Russell's place. That was back in 2010, or maybe earlier than that. But yeah, it's been a while. But I always stayed friends with Bo, and of course I keep in touch with Mike Caffro and Julie, which is married to Doug Roll.
Right.
I just talked to Julie here a little bit ago. I sent her some chocolate chip cookies out for her. I know the fire was getting close to her, so we gave her something, get her mind off the fire. But yeah, we did up there, and then of course Hannah got to ride one of Bo's bikes, and she ended up getting, I guess, third out there last year at Glen Helen, which was great because she never did that kind of racing before. She's on a bike she never rode before, which she thought she could do better, but she did good. She did. My hat's off to her. She tried, and I mean, she ran into a bottleneck, which really messed things up, which wasn't her fault. She might have
Right.
pulled a second place, but yes, we had a great time, and um, we took her down to Dover to do some hot laps in a NASCAR, and she had a blast in that. And I had an open spot, and I asked her if she had any friends that wanted to come along, and she's, yeah, I know someone. I said, well, go ahead, tell them, come along. I'll give them a good deal on it. And she invited Tracy Pickens, so it was me, Hannah, and Tracy Pickens out in the track. The two girls beat me. Can you believe that in a
Yeah.
NASCAR? Hannah had the fast car. I had the slow car. That's what it was.
Well, those are very talented ladies.
Oh yes, for sure, no doubt, no doubt.
I wouldn't want to go and race against them on anything
Yeah,
because they're going to beat you every time.
yeah, yeah. I remember. Was it last year? I think it was last year, the year before. Hannah brought her 90 here. It has a headlight on it. I have that TT track down out front here, and we had a campfire going. She said, "I'm going to go for a ride." What are you gonna do? I'm just going to ride the TT track. It was 9 o'clock at night. She's down there in the dark. I got video of her riding my TT track in the dark with her headlight going through this course. And she was down there for probably a half an hour. She couldn't get enough of it.
Well, the love of riding, you know. She made that
Yeah.
250R video that I love watching
Oh,
that.
yeah. 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 She said that's taking some time to get used to. She's so used to that four stroke and then jumping that two stroke. But she did good in the two stroke, but she said it's a different animal.
Totally. You know, that WXC class, that is one competitive class, isn't it?
Oh, yes, it is. There's a lot of fast girls in that class.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and from what I hear, the up and comers are going to make it even more competitive.
That's great. That's great. That's what we want to hear.
Yeah,
I want to see it. I want to see the sport grow. I do.
I do too. And I think the promotions that we can give the ladies is only going to help them grow.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't they don't get near the press that the boys do. I get it. I understand why, but still, if we could give them more, we're only going to help them grow. And then maybe someday you'll have an XC1 male class and an XC1, female class. I don't think you'll race them at the same time, but
Yeah.
it would still be awesome to be able to see the level and that everybody say, hey, it takes this much talent to go this fast, whether you're a male or a female.
Right. And it's nice because it gets them off the street It gets them out of the places where they don't need to be. That kind of stuff, that's what they need to do. Because a lot of these people out there now, they have no idea what they're missing out on by not going to the races.
Right.
I mean, I miss going. I mean, if I didn't have so many little things going on around here, I'd probably go to more. But I always make sure I get the couple. Even once in a while, I try and get to maybe one sprint car race a year. Check that out. I had a friend who was doing some sprint car racing. But but yeah, the cross country of all the racing that I've ever done, I mean, I love all of it. I love doing it all. But the cross country to me is my favorite because you can make a mistake in cross country on the first lap and you can make it up. Where a TT or a flat track race, you miss a gear and you lost. You know, you skip the neutral or something off the start, you're done. It's hard to catch up unless it's a big 25 lap race or something like that. Then you might have a chance. But a lot of the races around here, like the short courses, they're like 10, 12 laps and it's over.
And what the length of the track? 30, 40 seconds?
Yeah, I would say about 30. The smallest one is probably an eighth mile, the smallest, and then you have a half-mile track. They're the biggest ones.
Right. That's really great stuff. You know, I'm so glad that you reached out to me because, you know, you didn't get to talk much when you guys came out here last year and delving into your career and where you come from and the fact that you're still helping people in the industry. That's pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah, I enjoy doing it. Yeah, I don't know which races I'll get to here yet, but I'm gonna probably try and get to uh, the Mason-Dixon race. I'll try and get to that one, and then maybe one other one. Hannah said I have to go to two this year, so I gotta stick to that, right?
Well, that Mason-Dixon race seems like one hell of a race, doesn't it?
Yeah, I did that back in my three-wheeler days, but it was a little bit different course then. We did use a little bit the backside of the motocross course, if I remember right. Yes, we did. And I do. It's one race I won't forget. I have a big picture of it on me and my three-wheeler coming off a jump. There was a forest fire in West Virginia, just not far. It's right. The line, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, is right there. And they said if that race was in West Virginia, it would have been canceled. But because it was a different state, they allowed us to race. And you can see me coming off the jump, and everything in the background was smoke in the forest fire.
Wow.
Yeah, that was like in 1987 or 88, and that race was.
You're going to have to get Kelly to email me some of those photos.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I got tons of them. But we can do that.
Don't overwhelm me, but you know, if you emailed me some of those, that'd be great.
Yeah, I can do that.
That's incredible. Hey, Bob, I want to thank you so much for giving me some of your time. And I hope that you'll, you know, think about a time when you want to do this again and we can talk more about some of your other portions of your career that we didn't get to touch on today. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, don't forget to share us with your family and friends. The podcast is available on all streaming platforms, and you can find us on social media as ATV-TALK Podcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter.